Now, a lot of you, especially those who are James Bond fans, would remember that the BMW that was used by Pierce Brosnan in Tomorrow Never Dies had a fancy remote which you could use to drive the car around.
The remote control for your car.
While most of the gadgetries that you see in James Bond movies do not turn into realities, that has been turned into a reality now by BMW, well, although partly, and that's the car that we have with us here today, the 7 Series. Now, the 7 Series has always been BMW's flagship when it comes to showing its technology prowess. It's got all the technology that you would expect it to have in the segment, but it also has one more fancy thing that we just mentioned in the introduction, a remote which you can use to drive the car. Now, the 7 Series for years has locked its horns always against the Mercedes S-Class and the Audi A8. The new one, again, is really right there up with the competition. There are things where it misses out on, there are things where it's way ahead of, but when you look at it as a unique proposition, the driving factor is what separates it. Now, since the variant we are driving is an M Sport variant, you do get some rather aggressive looking touches at the front and the rear. Apart from that, you also get this M Sport badging here, even in the door sill. So while there is no change in performance when you compare it to the standard diesel, it does look a little more aggressive, and that is in line with what you would want a BMW to be. Now, when we talk about the interior of the 7 Series, what you notice first is this dashboard. It's a dual color dashboard. You've got the dark black on top, beige on the bottom. Apart from that, the center console, again, all of it is put together well, designed well, looks very, very premium. The quality of materials is totally unquestionable. The quality of leather, again, is top notch. The Harman Kardon audio system, it's got very good sound output, so if you are someone who loves enjoying the music while on the drive, this music system is really going to keep you happy for long. The instrument cluster, again, up front is digital, so you can customize it. It also changes in accordance to the mode that you select. Now, this one comes with 3 modes: Sport, Comfort, Eco Pro. What it does is, it alters the engine, gearbox, suspension and steering settings, and also the air conditioning settings. If you talk about visibility, again, visibility from the front, at the side and even at the rear, despite the car being so huge, is really nice. But when you're driving in traffic, the size of this car can be a bit of a bother at times. So if you're driving at speeds under 20 km/h, the system automatically shuffles between various camera angles to help you navigate those tight spots. The main reason you would buy a 7 Series is to be in this seat. So let's talk about what you get when you're here. Well, you get tons of space. It's a long car, so there is no lack of legroom whatsoever. The seats are adjustable, so I can recline them further. There's a lot of adjustment that can be done. You can see it's going even further back. So there is no lack of leg room, headroom, shoulder room, all of that is there. You've got a touch screen here in the center armrest. You can also go into the screen and select seats, and then you can select from various massage functions, wherein you can select massaging for your lower back, your middle back, your upper back, or full body. In terms of controls, at the rear seat, you've got these air conditioning vents here. You've got the individual air conditioning controls for each side. You've also got a DVD inset tray. Apart from that, you've got jack points for 2 headphones, and you also have 12-volt charging socket. So let's talk about the performance of the 7 Series, the 730LD rather, that we have with us here today. Now, considering the fact that we have spoken so much about its size, its positioning as a limousine, you really wouldn't expect this to be much of a performer. And well, you're not wrong either. It's not a really chuckable car. But if you look at it from the segment perspective, among all the cars that are there in the segment, this one probably is one of the most liveliest one. and also one of the most fun cars to drive. Now, powering this car is a 3-liter BMW twin-turbo diesel engine. It develops 265 horsepower and 620 Newton meters of torque. Now, all of that power is channeled to the rear wheels through an 8-speed automatic transmission. Now, the transmission is the same transmission that we've been seeing on BMWs for a while now. So, the shifts are quick. The unit does not hesitate to drop a gear or two when you really mash down your right foot on the accelerator pedal. So if you look at it from a driving perspective, well, yes, this 7 Series is a quick car despite its size, and that is also down to the fact that it's not as heavy as you would expect it to be. The chassis uses a lot of carbon fiber inserts, so that makes the car light, and that again aids performance as well as fuel efficiency. So what about the handling then? Well, around corners the 7 Series does show its size. It's a long car, so well, it does not turn in naturally, and you need to make an effort with the steering wheel. But then again, yes, the steering wheel itself offers a decent amount of feedback, so that is a good thing. It helps you have confidence in the car. If you're taking really tight turns, well, this car is not made for that. Now, talking about the remote parking feature, now many of you might argue that what's the point of having this technology? And well, you're right, it's not a lifesaver, but then again, by that logic, most of the technology that comes in cars today is pretty much useless. We don't need big engines, we don't need technology that can take cars around corners in a physics-defying manner. The reason is the overwhelming sensation of knowing that something that was never thought before can be achieved, and that's the point of having this remote parking feature. Now, using this is not very hard. All you need to do is swipe up, select the remote parking feature. It does take some time, about 20 odd seconds. You just need to hold the parking button on the side. It just goes back and parks itself. That's where it comes in handy. You can do the same if you want to move the car forward. Again, you just move your finger, you swipe your finger up front on the remote, and the car would go forward. Well, now it's time for a verdict, and the question arises, who is the new 7 Series for? Well, first of all, you are someone who's looking for a limousine, and specifically a chauffeur-driven limousine. The 7 Series checks all the boxes that are required in that aspect. What it does miss out on a bit, if you compare it to the same Mercedes S-Class, is that last borderline finesse in quality. That's the only part where the 7 Series is a little behind the S-Class. But what it misses out in that department, it really makes up when it comes to driving. If you are someone who during weekends or at times even wants to enjoy driving your limousine, that has got to be the 7 Series. It's got a punchy engine, it's got a good suspension, it handles well. Well, it's a limousine, so don't expect it to be nimble as the 3 Series. But then again, if you compare it to all the luxury barges in this segment, I think this one's the best one to drive. At about rupees 1.2 crore ex-showroom, the 7 Series is a technological powerhouse. It's a great car to be in when you're in the rear seat. It's a great car to drive. It's a good car to look at. It's got some amazing tech which we showed you, including the key with which you can drive it around like you would a remote control toy. So if you consider all of that, the 7 Series has finally hit the sweet spot that BMW was aiming for but wasn't really able to get to with the last 7 Series.